The sound of rolling suitcase wheels echoed through the terminal as Sasha Obama stepped into the bustling airport. She wore simple jeans, a hoodie, and sunglasses, the kind of outfit that made her blend into the crowd. No flashy jewelry, no security entourage. To anyone looking, she was just another college student catching a flight, but appearances can be deceiving. As she approached the VIP entrance, a tall man in a dark blazer stepped forward, blocking her way. "Ma'am, this area is for first-class passengers only," he said firmly. Sasha adjusted her sunglasses and spoke politely. "I know, I'm flying first class. Here's my ticket." He barely glanced at it before shaking his head. "This is a restricted lounge. You can't just walk in because you think you belong here." Passengers in line started to turn their heads, curious. A woman whispered to her friend, "Who does she think she is?" Sasha felt heat rising in her cheeks. She could have shouted, could have pulled out her ID, but she didn't. She simply said, "Sir, I believe there's been a misunderstanding." The man crossed his arms. "The only misunderstanding is you thinking rules don't apply to you. Now step aside." It wasn't just rejection, it was humiliation. People were watching, phones were out, and somewhere, someone was already recording. The staff member called over another employee, a woman with a clipboard and an even sharper tone. "Miss, you need to leave this area immediately. If you don't, we'll have security escort you." "Out." Sasha hesitated. She could fix this in one sentence. "I'm Sasha Obama." But a small voice inside told her, "Don't say it. Not yet." Instead, she pulled her phone from her bag and sent a short text. No explanation, just 3 words. "It's happening now." The staff, growing impatient, began ushering her toward the main exit. People moved aside to watch the scene unfold. Some looked amused, others shook their heads. As they reached the sliding glass doors, a deep, distant rumble echoed outside. The sound of engines, then like something out of a movie, a sleek black SUV rolled up to the curb. Behind it, another, and another. The security guard's hand froze on Sasha's shoulder. His confident expression flickered. From the first SUV, 2 men in dark suits stepped out, scanning the crowd with sharp eyes. One of them spoke into an earpiece, and that's when Sasha smiled, because she knew they weren't here for just anyone. The glass doors slid open, letting in a rush of cool air as the black SUVs came to a halt. The engines purred like sleeping beasts, but the atmosphere in the terminal shifted instantly. Conversations died down. Every head turned toward the scene outside. The man who had blocked Sasha just minutes earlier straightened his jacket, suddenly unsure of himself. The clipboard woman took a nervous half-step back. Neither of them said a word. The rear door of the lead SUV opened slowly. Out stepped another man in a suit, tall, athletic, his eyes hidden behind mirrored sunglasses. He scanned the area, then gave a subtle nod toward Sasha. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Who is she? Is this Secret Service? The suited man stepped inside, his shoes clicking on the marble floor. He spoke calmly, but his voice carried authority. "Miss Obama, are you all right?" The name hung in the air like a thunderclap. The guard's jaw tightened. The clipboard woman's eyes widened. And the bystanders? They collectively gasped. Sasha took off her sunglasses for the first time, revealing her unmistakable features, the same ones that had graced news headlines and White House photographs for years. The guard's lips parted as if to speak, but nothing came out. His earlier confidence had vanished completely. Before anyone could recover, the sound of more engines filled the air. 2 additional SUVs pulled up, followed by a black sedan. And then, the crowd parted as if by instinct. From the sedan's back seat, a familiar figure emerged, tall, composed, dressed in a dark suit that fit perfectly. The former president of the United States, Barack Obama, stepped out with the same calm, charisma that had once commanded entire nations. The murmurs grew into an audible buzz. "No way! That's Barack Obama." The clipboard woman's hands trembled around her papers. The guard quickly moved to stand straighter, trying to compose himself, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Obama's stride was purposeful as he approached the entrance. Security moved aside instantly. He didn't look left or right. His eyes were fixed on his daughter. When he reached Sasha, his expression softened. "Hey, kiddo," he said warmly, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Everything all right?" Sasha smiled faintly. "Just a little misunderstanding." Barack turned his gaze to the staff, not with anger, but with a quiet, measured intensity that was somehow more intimidating than shouting. "A misunderstanding?" he repeated. "That's an interesting way to put it." The guard swallowed hard. "Mr. Obama..." "Sir, Obama raised a hand, silencing him. "I'm sure you were just doing your job, but your job also includes treating people with respect. Every person, no exceptions." The clipboard woman's voice cracked. We didn't know." "That's exactly the point," Obama interrupted gently but firmly. "You don't need to know someone's last name to treat them decently." Around them, passengers stood frozen, absorbing every word. The weight of the moment hung in the air, not just because of who Obama was, but because of the truth in what he was saying. Then, without raising his voice, he added, "Now, I'd like my daughter to have the seat she paid for, and I trust there won't be any more issues." The guard nodded quickly. "Of course, sir, right away." As the staff scrambled to make arrangements, Sasha and her father walked toward the VIP lounge. Phones were still recording, capturing every step. This wasn't just a private moment anymore. It was becoming a viral story before it was even over. Inside the lounge, Obama chuckled softly. "You could have told them who you were right away, you know." Sasha shrugged. "Yeah, but then they wouldn't have learned anything." Her father smiled proudly. "You've got your mother's patience, and maybe a little of my stubbornness." Outside, the guard and clipboard woman stood at the entrance, avoiding eye contact with each other. The motorcade remained parked, a visible reminder of the power they had so casually dismissed earlier. And somewhere in the terminal, a young man posted the video he had recorded to social media with the caption, "Airport staff kick out a girl. Then realize it's Sasha Obama. And then this happens." Within minutes, notifications began to explode. The clips spread like wildfire. But Sasha didn't care about the views or the comments. For her, it wasn't about revenge. It was about something bigger, a lesson for everyone watching. And the real chaos? That was still to come. The lounge was quiet, but outside those glass walls, the world was already changing. The young man who posted the first video refreshed his phone and nearly dropped it. 10,000 views in 15 minutes. Comments were piling in, faster than he could read them. "Wait, that's Sasha Obama?" "OMG, the staff were so rude. When Barack walked in, chills." By the time the motorcade was ready to leave, the video had passed 100,000 views. People in the terminal were showing each other their phones, pointing toward the lounge. Some even tried sneaking selfies with the tinted glass behind them. Inside, Sasha sipped a bottle of water, glancing occasionally at her own phone. Her messages were blowing up. Friends, classmates, even strangers tagging her in posts. Barack, on the other hand, seemed unfazed. "This'll be everywhere by tonight," he said casually, scrolling through his own feed. "These things always are." The airline staff outside the lounge weren't so calm. The guard who had stopped Sasha earlier was now on a frantic phone call. "Yes, I understand." "No, sir, we didn't know who she was." "Yes, sir. I realize the optics are bad. We're trying to fix it." The clipboard woman was pacing, muttering to herself, "Why today? Why her?" But the internet didn't care about apologies. It cared about moments, and this one had all the ingredients. A famous daughter, a public snub, a powerful father's arrival, and a sharp lesson on respect. Within an hour, the airline's PR team issued a short statement. "We are aware of a situation involving a valued passenger and are investigating the matter." It was bland. Too bland. Instead of calming things down, it made people angrier. "That's it?" one commenter wrote. "Not even an apology?" another replied. By lunchtime, the hashtag #JariRespectSashaObama was trending in 3 countries. Celebrities began chiming in. One popular talk show host tweeted, "Pro tip, treat every passenger like they might be the president's daughter. Problem solved." Reporters started calling the airport for comments. Paparazzi began to gather outside the hotel where the Obamas were staying. A young airline manager and a clearly nervous Dwight stepped into the lounge carrying a folder. His smile was tight, almost rehearsed. "Mr. Obama, Miss Obama, on behalf of the airline, I want to sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding earlier today. We've upgraded your seats and..." Barack raised a hand. "It's not about the seats," he said calmly. "It's about the way people are treated before they know who they are." The manager nodded quickly, his ears turning red. "Yes, sir, of course. We'll be providing additional training to our staff." Sasha sat quietly, watching him squirm. She wasn't trying to embarrass anyone, but she also wasn't going to pretend nothing had happened. "Training's good," she said, "but maybe start with reminding people to listen before they judge." The manager scribbled something in his folder, as if writing it down would make the moment disappear. Then he left just as quickly as he'd arrived. By the time Sasha and Barack boarded their flight, the video had crossed 2 million views. A second clip, filmed from a different angle, showed the exact moment Barack entered the terminal and embraced his daughter. That one was spreading even faster. Memes appeared. Someone posted a side-by-side photo. Left, the guard stopping Sasha. Right, Barack's face as he walked toward her. Caption: "Before you act, remember, she might be Sasha Obama." News networks picked it up. Former president confronts airline staff ran across TV screens. Pundits debated whether the staff had been overly strict or simply disrespectful. The airline's stock price even dipped slightly that afternoon. Investors didn't like scandals, especially ones that involved former presidents. At home that evening, the guard sat on his couch, his phone buzzing nonstop. He'd been suspended pending investigation. Neighbors were sending him links to the video. His cousin called to ask, "Bro, why would you mess with Sasha Obama?" He didn't have an answer. In his mind, he had just been following procedure. But now, watching the clip over and over, he saw what the world saw. A man dismissing a young woman without listening, and the shame settled heavy in his chest. As the plane cruised above the clouds, Sasha looked out the window, the lights of the city fading below. "Dad," she said quietly, "you know this is gonna follow those staff members forever, right?" Barack leaned back in his seat. "Maybe. But sometimes moments like this make people better. They remember, and next time they think twice before treating someone badly." Sasha nodded, resting her head against the seat. She wasn't angry anymore, just thoughtful. Somewhere far below, in airports and offices, people were still watching the clip, still sharing it, still talking about the lesson hidden inside the drama. And for the airline, the real challenge was only beginning. Before we continue with the story, tell us where you're watching from if you like this. Story, hit that subscribe button because tomorrow we have special story for you. By the next morning, the airline was in full-blown damage control mode. News anchors were replaying the viral clip on loop, dissecting every gesture, every word. Social media hadn't cooled down. In fact, it had gotten hotter overnight. The airline's PR director, a woman named Karen Holt, stood in front of a row of cameras for an emergency press conference. She wore a crisp navy suit and spoke with perfect poise. "We would like to sincerely apologize to Ms. Sasha Obama for the incident at our airport yesterday. We take full responsibility for the misunderstanding and are implementing new measures to ensure every passenger receives the utmost respect." It was a safe, scripted apology, and that was the problem. Within minutes, people online began tearing it apart. Sounds fake. Too late, we saw the video. She's only sorry because it's Sasha Obama. Would they apologize to me? Hashtags shifted. Now it wasn't just respect Sasha Obama, it was respect all passengers. While the media firestorm grew, Sasha sat in her hotel room scrolling through the chaos. She hadn't posted anything about the incident yet, but her silence was only making people more curious. Finally, she opened her phone's camera, recording a short video. She spoke softly, her tone calm but firm. "I appreciate the apology from the airline, but this isn't about me being the daughter of someone important. It's about making sure everyone, no matter who they are, is treated with basic kindness." She ended with a small smile, then posted it to her social media accounts. The video exploded. Millions watched it in hours. Comment sections filled with messages like, "She's so classy. This is how you handle a situation." I love how she flipped it to a bigger message. Barack watched from across the room, nodding slightly. "You just shifted the whole narrative," he said. Desperate to salvage its image, the airline announced a massive public gesture. They would invite Sasha and Barack to a special press event at the airport to formally present their apology, complete with flowers, first-class lifetime passes, and a donation to a charity of their choice. It sounded like a good plan on paper. But when the press release went out, the reaction was brutal. Lifetime. Passes? For what? Being disrespected? Why not donate that money to better staff training? Feels like they're trying to buy forgiveness. The criticism grew so intense that by the time Sasha's team responded to the invitation, the airline was already backpedaling. At airline headquarters, a group of executives sat in a windowless conference room. The CEO slammed a newspaper onto the table. The front page read, "Airline tries to buy back Obama family's forgiveness, fails." "This is a nightmare," he growled. "Every move we make blows up in our faces." Karen Holt, the PR director, pinched the bridge of her nose. "It's because we're thinking like a company, not like people. The public doesn't want grand gestures, they want sincerity." The CEO frowned. "So what do you suggest?" Karen hesitated. "We have to go there, in person. Sit down with them, no cameras, no press, just talk." 2 days later, the CEO and Karen arrived quietly at the hotel where the Obamas were staying. No entourage. No photographers. Just two people hoping to fix a mistake. They sat across from Sasha and Barack in a modest conference room. The CEO spoke first. "I came here because I don't want to hide behind statements anymore. What happened to you, Sasha, was wrong. And the truth is, it could happen to anyone. That's on us." Sasha studied him carefully. He looked tired, not just from the scandal, but from carrying the weight of knowing millions of people saw his company as arrogant and cold. "I'm not here to make you look bad," Sasha said. "I just want to make sure the next time someone's in that situation, they get a little more respect than I did." Karen leaned forward. "What if we worked together? Not for a PR stunt, for real change, training programs, awareness campaigns, something that lasts." Barack smiled faintly. "Now that," he said, "sounds like the start of a better story." Word leaked, not from the airline, but from a hotel staff member who overheard the meeting. Soon, headlines shifted. Airline CEO meets Sasha Obama in private to discuss passenger rights. This time, the reaction was different. People weren't mocking the company. They were curious, maybe even hopeful. Still, the comments stayed sharp. "Good start. Let's see if they follow through." Talk is cheap. Action's what matters. The airline now had one last chance to prove itself. And Sasha, whether she wanted it or not, had become the face of a movement much bigger than a first-class seat. 3 days after the private meeting, Sasha was back in Washington, trying to settle into normal life again. But the world wasn't letting go of the story. International news outlets had picked it up. In London, a morning show ran a segment titled, "From Humiliation to Change, Sasha Obama Inspires a New Standard for Air Travel." In Tokyo, a popular newspaper featured her photo alongside the headline, "Passenger Respect, the New Battle for Human Dignity." The message was no longer just about Sasha. It had become about everyone. One evening, as Sasha was reviewing her university coursework, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She hesitated, then opened it. "Dear Ms. Obama, on behalf of the International Aviation Ethics Council, we would like to formally invite you to speak at our annual summit in Geneva, Switzerland, this coming month. Your voice represents a new era in passenger rights, and we believe your story could inspire policy change across the globe." Sasha blinked, rereading it. Geneva. An international audience of airline CEOs, regulators, and policymakers. She walked into the living room where her father was reading the newspaper. "Dad, you're not going to believe this." Barack looked up, listened to her read the message, and smiled. "Looks like you've gone from a bad day at the airport to rewriting the rulebook." The weeks leading up to the summit were a blur. Sasha wasn't a politician, and she'd never given a speech to thousands before. She met with communication coaches, read passenger rights cases from around the world, and spent late nights scribbling notes at the kitchen table. Her speech wasn't going to be about revenge or embarrassment. It was going to be about respect. "I want to make it clear," she told her coach. "This isn't just about me. This is about that single mom with 2 kids trying to get home for the holidays. The elderly passenger confused by the process. The nervous traveler who gets treated like they're an inconvenience. This is for them." Geneva's conference hall was buzzing with journalists, airline executives, and industry leaders from over 50 countries. Cameras flashed as Sasha arrived, with Barack walking beside her. The moderator introduced her simply. "Please welcome Ms. Sasha Obama, representing the passenger experience." Sasha took the stage in a navy suit, the same shade as the one she'd worn the day she was kicked off that flight. Her voice trembled slightly at first, but as she looked out over the crowd, she remembered every supportive message, every story from strangers who had experienced the same humiliation. "I didn't set out to be an activist," she began. "I was just a passenger. I had a ticket. I followed the rules. But when I was told to leave that day, it wasn't just inconvenient. It was demeaning. What shocked me wasn't the incident. It was how many people told me they'd been through the same thing, but no one had listened. This isn't about special treatment. It's about equal treatment. Airlines carry more than luggage. They carry human beings. And those human beings deserve dignity from the moment they enter an airport to the moment they leave it." For the next 15 minutes, she shared stories from travelers worldwide, stories she'd collected in the weeks since her video went viral. She didn't name the airline that wronged her. She didn't need to. When Sasha finished, the room was silent for a split second, then erupted into applause. Executives who had come expecting a celebrity headline now found themselves nodding, some even looking uncomfortable, realizing they'd been part of the problem. One airline CEO whispered to another, "She's right. We have gotten used to treating people like numbers." Barack watched from the front row, his eyes glistening with pride. By the end of the summit, the International Aviation Ethics Council announced the creation of a global passenger respect charter, a set of non-negotiable standards for how travelers should be treated. Sasha was named as one of its honorary ambassadors. Her phone buzzed again. Messages flooded in, from strangers, from old classmates, even from flight attendants who wanted to thank her for speaking up. One message stood out. It was from the same airline CEO who had met her privately days earlier. "You've changed. More than our company, you've changed the conversation. Thank you." As Sasha boarded her flight home from Geneva, she looked out the window at the snowy Swiss mountains. She knew there would be more challenges, more stories of people being mistreated, more work to be done. But for the first time since that awful day at the airport, she felt in control of the narrative. This wasn't just about what had happened to her. This was about making sure it never happened to anyone again. And judging by the way the world was listening, she was just getting started. 2. Weeks after the Geneva summit, the Global Passenger Respect Charter was making headlines in every major news outlet. More than 20 airlines had already signed it, pledging to uphold new, higher standards for treating passengers with dignity. But not everyone was on board. In a late-night email, Sasha's team received an update from the council. One of the world's largest airlines has publicly refused to sign the charter. Their CEO says the policy is unrealistic and bad for business. Sasha scanned the message twice. The name of the airline stopped her cold. It was the same airline that had kicked her out of her seat months earlier, the next morning. The airline's CEO gave an interview to a business news channel. His words spread quickly. "We can't let emotions dictate our operations. Our staff follow procedures, and if passengers don't like it, there are plenty of other airlines. We're not in the business of coddling people." Within hours, the clip had gone viral, and the backlash was immediate. Hashtags calling for a boycott trended worldwide. Barack walked into Sasha's study holding his phone. "I think he just poured gasoline on a fire," he said, showing her the comments section. Thousands of people shared their own bad experiences, tagging the airline. Sasha had two options: stay quiet and let the public reaction run its course, or face the CEO directly. She chose the second. Through the Aviation Ethics Council, she arranged a public forum, an open discussion between passenger advocates and airline leaders, live-streamed to millions. The reluctant CEO agreed, perhaps, thinking he could handle her. "Are you ready for this?" Barack asked as she prepared her notes. Sasha nodded. "He thinks I'm just here for attention. I'm here for accountability." The event was held in a sleek New York City conference hall, with cameras positioned from every angle. Airline executives sat on one side, advocates and journalists on the other. When it was Sasha's turn to speak, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult him. Instead, she did what no one expected. She told stories. "Mr. Daniels," she began, "I want to share a story about a grandmother from Ohio. She was traveling alone to see her first grandchild, but when her connecting flight was delayed, your staff told her to wait quietly and offered no help, even when she missed her chance to meet her newborn grandson. She wrote to me after my video because she thought no one else would listen." The CEO shifted. Uncomfortably, cameras zoomed in on his expression. "I could tell you hundreds more stories," Sasha continued, "but here's the truth. This isn't about cost. It's about culture. It's about training staff to see a human being before they see a ticket number." The audience erupted into applause. The CEO tried to defend the company's policies, but every statement sounded cold compared to the real human experiences Sasha described. Then something unexpected happened. A flight attendant from the airline sitting in the back stood up and spoke into the microphone. "I've worked here for 12 years. We're told to follow rules even when they make no sense. And yes, we've been told to remove people from flights even when we knew it wasn't fair. I'm tired of pretending. This doesn't happen." The room fell silent. This wasn't Sasha talking anymore. It was one of his own employees confirming her claims. The CEO's face went pale. By the end of the event, polls showed a staggering 78% of viewers siding with Sasha. Share prices for the airline began to dip as investors worried about the growing boycott. That night, news anchors described it as a public relations disaster for the airline. But for Sasha, it was more than that. It was proof that speaking out could break through even the most stubborn resistance. 2 days later, Sasha's phone rang. It was an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Obama, this is Daniel Hurst. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I'm ready to discuss the charter, if you are." Sasha didn't answer right away. She let the silence hang. Finally, she said, "I'll meet with you, but understand this. This isn't about a photo op. If you sign, you commit to change. Real change." They met in a quiet conference room. No cameras this time. For 2 hours, they went over the charter line by line. The CEO asked questions, raised concerns, and to Sasha's surprise, listened. By the end of the meeting, he extended his hand. "You've made your point. We'll sign." When the announcement hit the news, the headlines were clear. Last, major airline joins global passenger respect charter. Sasha didn't celebrate with champagne or parties. She sat on the porch with her father, sipping tea. Barack looked at her and smiled. "So, what's next?" Sasha gazed out at the sunset. "We've changed the rules for airlines. Now, maybe we can change the rules for airports." The announcement that the last major airline had signed the Global Passenger Respect Charter made global headlines. News anchors called it a rare victory for ordinary travelers. Social media flooded with congratulations, and strangers sent Sasha messages from every corner of the world. "You spoke for all of us. Because of you, my elderly parents will be treated better on their next trip. You made me believe in change again." For Sasha, the moment was bittersweet. She had started this journey because of one humiliating experience, being treated as if she didn't matter. But now, she saw the bigger picture. There were millions of passengers like her, each with their own story of unfair treatment. One evening, as she sorted through letters and emails, Barack walked in holding a cup of tea. "You know," he said, You've done something here most people never even attempt. You've taken your personal frustration and turned it into a platform for others. That's powerful, Sasha smiled. It doesn't feel finished, though. The airlines agreed to the charter, but I keep thinking about the airports themselves. The long lines, the rudeness, the way disabled travelers are sometimes left stranded. Barack leaned on the doorway. Then maybe this is just chapter 1. Within weeks, Sasha began building something new, a nonprofit organization called The Passenger Voice. Its mission was simple but ambitious: monitor how airlines and airports treat passengers, publish an annual Respect Index ranking, travel companies on customer service, provide legal and advocacy support for passengers who experienced mistreatment. She called friends from her university days, tapped into her father's network, and reached out to the very advocates who had supported her during the airline battle. The response was overwhelming. The Passenger Voice launched in a modest Washington, D.C. auditorium. There were no fancy decorations, no celebrity endorsements, just a stage, a microphone, and a sea of everyday travelers who wanted to be heard. Sasha stepped up to the podium. Cameras clicked. The room went quiet. "I'm not here because I wanted attention," she began. "I'm here because I know what it feels like to be powerless in a place where you should feel safe. I know what it's like to be dismissed, ignored, and told to sit down when you just want fairness." She told her story from the beginning, the day she was kicked out of her seat, but now she framed it in a new way. It wasn't about revenge, it was about respect. The media coverage exploded again. Travel bloggers, influencers, and even pilots began sharing their support. Airlines, aware that the public was watching, started rolling out training programs for their staff on empathy and communication. One major airport in Europe contacted Sasha's organization directly, asking for help in designing a human-first customer service plan. The change was visible. Videos began circulating of staff going above and beyond for passengers. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Months later, during an anniversary event for the Passenger Voice, the audience buzzed with anticipation. There was a rumor someone unexpected would speak. When Barack Obama walked on stage, the cheers were deafening. "I came here tonight," he said, "not as a former president, but as a proud father. I've watched my daughter face an injustice, then decide to do something about it. Not just for herself, but for everyone. That's leadership. That's courage. And that's the kind of change the world needs more of." Sasha wiped away tears as the crowd stood to applaud. A year after the first charter was signed, complaints about airline mistreatment had dropped by 35% worldwide. The Passenger Voice had representatives in 20 countries. Sasha often reflected on how it all began. Just one incident, one moment where she could have walked away quietly, but chose to speak. She realized something profound. Change doesn't start when you have all the answers. It starts when you decide to stand up. In a final speech broadcast on international television, Sasha looked straight into the camera and said, "If you're watching this, remember, your voice matters. Even if you think no one will listen, even if you're scared of the consequences, speak up. Because one voice can start a conversation, and a conversation can change the world." The crowd erupted in applause. Somewhere in the back, Barack clapped the loudest. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who's been treated unfairly, and let them know their voice matters too. And if you want more stories of courage, dignity, and standing up for what's right, make sure you're subscribed, because the next one might just change how you see the world.